As someone who spent many, many very happy years in this particular part of the country, it distresses me terribly to think that this landscape, which I know and I love so much, may be destroyed.
I believe that the County Council, Warwickshire County Council, should not have been proposing this site in the first place. We have to stop that quarry. There are better locations, and I really think everyone should be getting behind the campaign.
In the heart of Warwickshire, the village of Barford is surrounded by rich agricultural land. It has existed in one form or another since Anglo-Saxon times. It offers a classic picture of Shakespeare's country. An idyllic place to live. However, Barford's 2,000-strong community and its local environment face grave uncertainty. Plans for a sand and gravel quarry have been submitted, a quarry that is surplus to requirements. The residents are now at the mercy of Warwickshire County Council.
Barford is a very pretty little village in the middle of Warwickshire, not far from Stratford-on-Avon. It's got a lot of history, it's been there a long, long time.
We consider that it is the gateway to the Cotswolds.
It's a beautiful, tranquil village, and it's a village I'm very proud to live in.
We love the local people, and it's a wonderful village full of a great community.
We have a lovely church, we have this village school, and there are lots of societies and groups that people can belong to.
We love the school, we love the fact the park is so close, lots of friendly faces.
It's one of those places that shares your joys and shares your sorrows. Everyone around you is there for you.
Well, we love the country walks and everything that brings.
I have walked the lanes and the fields around Barford for a good many years. And so what is happening there now gives me a feeling of great sadness because this valley is so beautiful. If you walk down from the top of a hill and you look down onto what we might be losing, it's incredibly painful.
I've developed quite a strong interest with this gravel quarry that's been proposed. I feel it's wrong, it's in the wrong place. There are other sites which would not cause as much impact on the environment or people.
It is far too near to people's housing, to our school, to people who've lived here all their lives, I suppose.
The site is very, very close to the village, half a mile from the centre, yards from some of the houses. And as I understand it, it is really unusual to have a site, certainly this size, close to a residential area.
The size and scale of it would actually dwarf the village.
And I'm very worried about the road itself, how much traffic there'll be, you know, the fumes in the air, the noise.
I work on the crossroads up there, and you hear the screech of brakes as cars pull out in front of lorries, toots of horn every day.
It's the main road to the Cotswolds, so summer traffic.
The village gets jammed, it actually almost gets gridlocked at times, and more traffic will cause more hassle.
So we're looking at about 200 lorries a day, and that will be going on until 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. They'll be dusty, they'll be noisy. The whole village, I think, will hear those and will be conscious of it. And they are big, loaded lorries, lots of them.
My main concern as a mum and somebody that enjoys exercise and getting out in the open air is going to be the impacts that this quarry will have on the air quality.
I know Warwickshire County Council have a policy for clean air for kids, which I think is a great aim, but what's being proposed with the quarry is clearly going to be totally contrary to that.
When you start to mine sand and gravel, not only the processing machinery, but the heavy goods vehicles trucking this stuff in and out of the site produce an enormous amount of dust, which releases so-called particulates into the atmosphere. Most of the winds do come from the southwest. All those directional winds will take the air containing these particulates up the valley through Barford. You have the banks on either side of the valley, although it's a shallow valley, I grant you. But as you get closer to the village of Barford, it starts to narrow. So that produces a funnel effect. and that can concentrate these particulates.
Where I live, I suppose I will get the first breath of it.
Scientific evidence is already available to show what air pollution damage can do to internal organs.
So I've got 2 young children. I'm really concerned about the long-term impact on their health from this quarry. We know that a long-term exposure can be harmful.
The quarry will have an impact on everybody's health, whether that be mental health, from the noise, from the dust, from the increase of traffic. Some children and adults, people that already have lung conditions such as asthma, will be more impacted.
Silicosis is a very difficult diagnosis to make because it's very insidious, it takes a long time to come on. Once you do start to get it, there's no cure. Even after you've been removed from exposure to it, you continue to get worse.
So the land at the moment is currently farmland and it's used to grow lettuce, and of course we've left the EU, so Britain should be now self-serving.
When I was born in the early 60s, we were 78% self-sufficient in food production. This year, sadly, I think we're going to dip below the 50% mark, and that really worries me.
And there are campaigns to continue sustainable farming, and this land being used for what it's going to be proposed for really goes against all those principles.
This soil is what they consider best and most versatile land.
It's the ultimate form of agriculture, so they can get up to 5 crops a year off it.
Now, in a time when food security in this country is an issue, why do we want to create a quarry where you've got this rich seam of agricultural land?
If this is gravelled, it will never be returned to agricultural land. I'm sure there's better sites for gravel which wouldn't revolve around taking up the most prime agricultural land in the country. Grade 1 and Grade 2 land should be there for producing food.
The land itself is owned by St John's College, Oxford.
I do find it particularly baffling that St John's, being one of the richest colleges in the country, could actually be putting children's health at risk. This very much goes against their principles and what they believe in and what they supposedly stand for.
The biggest tragedy of it is there's no need for it.
I understand from our MP that there has been an overestimation in the amount of sand and gravel that is required. There really is an onus and ownership really on the council and also St John's College to recognise that and acknowledge that this is not required based on the housing demand.
We feel very small compared to these committees, to these councils, to a huge college, and to the company itself that wants to actually do this work.
The quarry itself could go on for 15 years, but then we don't know what might happen to that land afterwards. There have been other examples where quarry land has been turned over to recycling and landfill land. So this could be a site that actually, decimates this whole area for decades, and that would be a terrible tragedy.
All of the work that this community has put into fighting this is about sustaining that long-term view of a beautiful village that has existed for a long time, and we don't want to see that destroyed.
If Warwickshire County Council approves this quarry, the community will face decades of upheaval. Natural habitats will face decades of pollution and destruction. Biodiversity and sustainable farming will suffer greatly. People's health and well-being will be neglected, and children will be denied their right to breathe clean air. The council will be turning their backs on many of their own environmental policies. They will also be turning their backs on their own constituents. Figures state that demand for sand and gravel is already oversubscribed, which begs the question, is this motivated by need or greed? Stop the quarry.
I hope it doesn't happen.